But Donte Whitner and Ji'Ayir Brown have been beefing back and forth. The reports out there of Donte Whitner criticizing Ji'Ayir Brown calling up Donte Whitner, kind of checking him and everything, which has been very one-sided as to where the news is coming from. It's coming from Donte Whitner. Ji'Ayir Brown hasn't said much. There's been some Instagram posts, some posts on their stories of Malik Mustafa and Ji'Ayir Brown kind of clapping back, if you will, at what Donte Whitner said. But I'll just say this. Initially, I was very against Ji'Ayir Brown in this case of like, what you expect to happen? Donte Whitner, he's a very respected player in the organization. Ji'Ayir Brown shouldn't be thinking he's a Pro Bowl talent and everything. But did you guys happen to see or hear what Donte Whitner said today about Ji'Ayir Brown and company?
I do. I have it up right now.
Okay, let me bring it up because it's
you have it.
If you can share your screen, Dre, quickly, I'll bring it up and put it on here for us. But
I'm trying to go as fast as I can.
It to me did change my thoughts on it. So Dre, go ahead and read things off if you will.
Let's see here. It says, I asked him. I said, Ji'Ayir.
Ji'Ayir,
Can you come on the podcast so you can debate your proposition or why you feel the way you do? He said, nah, I don't like to talk. I said, okay, then can I tell you, okay, then can I tell my podcast listeners about you calling me? He said, no, don't tell them. I don't give a fuck. I'm telling them. Don't you ever call my phone and think you're checking me. Now, if you have a valid point, I'm willing to listen to it. But if you play shit like shit and I analyze it, I'm going to continue to analyze it that way. When you play well, I'm not going to be biased. I'm going to give you all the praise in the world. When you play like shit, I'm going to tell you you played like shit. I hope this is the one you wanted me to read.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
And it's like I was on Dante's side for a lot of it. Like, like Ji'Ayir he's sounding a little delusional, saying he's a Pro Bowl talent. Maybe he's overconfident. It leads to questions of, are you a coachable player? Do you think your crap don't stink too much? Like, is there an open mind behind the eyes and ears of Ji'Ayir Brown? But then I saw this and I went, oh, Donte Whitner's crazy. Like,
what did you think was going to happen? Do you think he's going to be like hey,
what is
man,
this?
You're right.
like the first sentence that Donte Whitner says in this quote is, I asked Ji'Ayir, do you want to come on my podcast and essentially debate me about your play? Why would you want Ji'Ayir Brown and a contractor to come on the show and debate a former player when he should be out there practicing, watching tape, and getting better at his craft? You think the Niners are going to like that from him? Oh, yeah, I'm going to go debate Donte Whitner on his podcast because he talked crap about me. Why? That's a terrible look for Ji'Ayir to do that. Now, I think Ji'Ayir did the right thing. He called Donte up and told him, hey, man, like, knock it off. But Dante's response is like, I'm going to tell everybody about what you just did. And Jair's like, why? What is the point of that? And Dante's like, because F you, that's why. Because the content comes first. And I do think the content, yes, what did Ji'Ayir expect? But Ji'Ayir expects a near 40-year-old man to have a little more respect for a 27-year-old player. And maybe he isn't playing well, but also like, hey, man, you can criticize me, but the content shouldn't be the thing that's leading you in all of your conversations you're going to have. Because my God, the first sentence should not be, come on the podcast and debate me about your play. Why? What does Ji'Ayir Brown owe Donte Whitner? Nothing at all. So why would Ji'Ayir ever do that?
But was that other phone call that they talked about prior to this one, or is it the same one?
Probably the same one.
I think it's the same one. Same one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an issue with Donte.
I don't either.
I have zero issue with this because I feel like some people need to be checked.
Sure.
And I'm glad somebody called him out on how bad he was playing last year, because now it's in his mind that there's people out here, especially like us or guys like Donte, that think he suck. maybe that motivates him.
I hope it does. When you play like shit for 2 consecutive seasons, I mean, how many times did we see Saleh bring down Ji'Ayir Brown and have him blitz and just get stood up by a running back? Like nothing. Just like, oh, God, that was a waste. And it's like, you're an NFL player, okay? So you can expect to get the smoke when you play like shit, right?
Yep.
But
Just
then when
like
you call a guy like Donte Whitner and you say, hey, man, stop talking shit about me. Don't do that. If you don't have a built-in relationship with this individual, why do you think he would say, oh, yeah, man, my bad. Don't worry about it. I won't say no, fuck that. This guy has become a media, what do you call it? I mean, a media personality. He was on the Niners postgame show on NBC Sports for a number of years, and now he does the Grit Code podcast with Rod Brooks, Patrick Willis. And look, everyone's saying, well, he went to Richard Sherman, and Sherman didn't say anything. Well, Richard Sherman has a bigger platform.
Yep.
Richard Sherman doesn't just focus on the Niners. Richard Sherman focuses on the entire NFL.
Yep.
So he's not going to sit there and get locked into a debate with Ji'Ayir Brown. Now, if Christian McCaffrey called him and talked shit to him, that's a little different because that's a premier player. That's something that's at his level.
Guy that's proven that he's great.
But the difference is if Ji'Ayir called Richard Sherman up, just simply based on what we know of Donte and Sherman will have that conversation respectfully. He may tell Ji'Ayir, whoa. Like, I'm only trying to help you, man. Like, let's do film study together. Donte doesn't even broach that topic until it gets on the podcast 2 episodes later. I'll be your safeties coach. Do you think Ji'Ayir Brown wants you to be his safeties coach?
No.
Yeah, but like,
but I do think Ji'Ayir would be open to getting Sherman's knowledge.
What if if he popped off on Sherman and disrespected Sherman, I think Sherman would say something about him too.
Where's the disrespect though? Now, I think Ji'Ayir shouldn't have called Donte up and been like, hey,
you can't be soft, man.
Stop doing that stuff to me.
That's the generation.
But
thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
I don't think this is a generational problem. I think this is a Richard Sherman and
Donte
Whitner difference.
It is a generational problem.
But it's not though, because Ji'Ayir Brown's not playing good football. That is its own thing. He's not playing good. He hasn't been good for 2 years. He gets criticized for it. Is he being soft by telling Whitner to knock it off? Sure.
Yes.
You play in the NFL, you're playing poorly, you're open to criticism. But that doesn't make what Donte Whitner did right either, of being like, well, come on the podcast, because it shows your intention. Your intention is to only make content from me as a player, and I'm not your content hub. I'm a 26-year-old, 27-year-old safety in the last year of my deal trying to get right. Now, whether Ji'Ayir thinks he's top 5 safety in football, that's a whole different discussion because he's entirely wrong. But the fact is, Donte was not utilizing or discussing with Ji'Ayir with good intentions. Everything he's mentioned is, come on the podcast. I'll be your coach after the fact. Don't check me. I'm going to check you. Shut the F up type of thing. It's like Ji'Ayir, yes, is being too thin-skinned when it comes to criticism from Donte Whitner. But Donte's intentions are not pure either. He let a private conversation out, which he probably shouldn't have done. Like, imagine how many other young NFL stars have called veteran people and been like, hey, man, like, why are you talking so much about me? And that can be a respectful conversation behind the scenes that I'm sure Ji'Ayir and Richard Sherman have. Like, Sherman has his own podcast. He's not just on Amazon Prime. Sherman could have flamed the you-know-what out of Ji'Ayir. But he didn't do that. Why?
He still might.
Because the intention was not to make a podcast or content from Ji'Ayir Brown's struggles and put him on blast. Donte was waiting for this to happen. The first sentence of this quote is, come on the podcast. Well, why? Because you don't want to have this nice debate. You want to make content from me. Mm-hmm. Why would Ji'Ayir respect that at all? I don't know. I wouldn't. No way.
At the end of it, I'm at the point now with content creating where nobody does anything in good faith and everybody's out to get clicks. And at this point, I don't really, with the amount of people that are out there that make rage bait and grifter content, if he wants to, at least he's been consistent with the type of content he does, Donte. He's
Sure.
kind of a hard ass. He doesn't speak nicely of players. Like he comes at you with a lot of guff and a lot of attitude. And Sherman you're right. He's definitely comes at things more professional. He's also an eloquent speaker who went to, Stanford, and he's a very educated guy. He just approaches things differently. I think Dante's just being Dante, and he's being true to who he is.
Look,
he could have handled it differently, but if a guy's going to call you and tell you to not, and we don't know the tone that Ji'Ayir gave to him when he told him not to talk.
100%.
He could have been like, man, talk about, like, kind of disrespect him because he's a lot older. He should respect his elders. And maybe this tone set him off. Maybe it was, trust me, I've had people in my own family that I don't talk to anymore because their tone is disrespectful. So I understand that part. But yeah, I don't know. At this point, it's May. I'm sure we won't be talking about this in September.
Yeah, but
God, I hope not.
Still, I mean, oh my God. Still, to call Donte Whitner and to calmly, let's just pretend, calmly say, hey, please don't talk bad about me anymore. Donte Whitner and his platform is the kind of guy that you just ignore if you're an NFL player.
100%.
Why you went to him is ridiculous. Richard Sherman, he's on Amazon Prime for the Thursday night football. He's on that cast. You know what I mean? He's got a much bigger platform. And I know because when he starts producing content and you post his videos, they get a ton of traction. Everyone loves to hear Richard Sherman's point of view. So I get why Sherman didn't say anything, because, I mean, it's like, whatever. But why you took Whitner and put him on the same pedestal as Richard Sherman is beyond me. And to think that he was going to listen to what you said and essentially obey what you said is crazy. He has no respect for you. You haven't played well in 2 years. You made some great plays last season. Don't get me wrong.
You should be open to any type of advice.
This is the kind of career. If you're Ji'Ayir Brown, you're saying last 2 seasons I did not play very well. I don't have much of a leg to stand on. I'm not going to go on the defensive. I'm just going to prove it on the field. But instead, he decided to do this. Probably didn't think that Whitner would say anything, and that sort of bit him in the ass. So
But
look,
that's what makes it worse, though, is that Ji'Ayir did it privately. Ji'Ayir didn't want the media attention. He didn't have a podcast. He didn't go on a show and discuss this. He did the right thing if he was going to broach the topic. He called Donte up man to man. Whether he should have said, stop talking about me or not, I think we would all say, you need to be a little more thick-skinned there, Ji'Ayir. But the fact that he made that a private conversation, didn't put it on social media, which superstars nowadays would, NFL players nowadays would, he didn't do that. He went to him man-to-man and said, hey, man, like, chill. Now, that tone could have been harsher than that. Fine. But the fact that Donte immediately took that and said, F it. I'm going to my podcast, and I'm doing not 1, but 2 episodes on this, shows you the intention behind it. Donte, and look, I love Donte Whitner. I love the Grit Code podcast. It's a fun show, great memories. We all love the Harbaugh era here on the show. But, like, the fact is that Dante's intentions were not pure. It was to get content out of Ji'Ayir Brown. Ji'Ayir Brown didn't want content from Donte Whitner. Yep. And Ji'Ayir, rightfully so, has no reason to listen to Donte Whitner. He's not in the room. He's not a coach. He's not part of the organization. You don't hear other cornerbacks going to Nate Clements and Walt Harris and Ahmed Plummer of like, oh, I respect those guys a ton. Ji'Ayir Brown was like 10 years old living in Pennsylvania when Donte Whitner was playing in San Francisco. So who cares?
What about
the relationship there?
What about when LeBron took Stephen A aside about talking bad about his boy, and then Stephen A would run on the air and was like, "Listen, I do this for a living. Like
that's different though, because
you're not going to stop what I'm going to say."
LeBron James did that publicly before a Los Angeles Lakers game where the entire world could see him doing it.
That's true.
Ji'Ayir made a private phone call behind the scenes and try to check Donte. This was a private. It's no different than me calling you up behind the scenes, being Aaron, I'm tired about the damn injury. Stop bringing it up on the show. It's the same thing.
Dre did that to me in the chat, the DMs.
But like that's a private conversation that doesn't have to be out there. Whereas Donte made it a point to make this public. and flame Ji'Ayir further, knowing that heat's already on Ji'Ayir because of his struggles.
I understand both arguments. I understand both arguments, but I'm like Dre. I just, man, I don't know. I'd be willing to take any advice possible.
I don't think this is a debate of like, well, Ji'Ayir Brown's a bitch for doing what he did because Donte's a hard-nosed SOB who doesn't mind getting his hands dirty.
I think, okay, look at it this way. If you do this kind of thing to like an Emmanuel Acho, right? Acho was not a Pro Bowl elite safety. He'd be more willing to be like, yeah, he'd be more willing to talk to you about it. Like, oh yeah, man, hey, look, I know the struggles. Him going to Donte immediately, Donte was like, I'm a fucking all-pro. I've been to multiple Pro Bowls. I've been to Super Bowls, even though Ji'Ayir Brown's was in one too, and he got an interception. And he's like, you have no right to call me and try and put me on check when I had a much superior career than you did. And I think that's where he's coming from. You know, you got guys out there, and look, you got guys out there right now. Fake Ricky Pearsall trying to get clicks off of that. A network trying to generate clicks off of a clip. Ian Williams replying to it. Remember Ian Williams? God.
Yes.
And so even that, like you have that happening on the other end. So look, at the end of the day,
yeah, but
don't call content creators and tell them to stop talking shit about you. Look at Javon Kinlaw. Did that work out? Nobody gave a shit. It was so stupid.
Say what you want about what you think of
he's
the
still
platform.
There. He's still in the he's still in the facility. It was like, come on, man, what are we doing here?
To be fair, Javon Kinlaw was eating squirrels in the forest once, so maybe we shouldn't compare the two.
Listen, I don't
know me. I was like,
I don't respect the way a guy like who does this content. It's very grifty, very kind of like I'm going to get a reaction out of people because I know how to do that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, people still watch his crap, and he gets a lot of views and he makes a good living off of it. I might not like it. A lot of people might not like it, but that's his content style, and that's what people like from him, and they go to watch. Same thing with Donte. I think Donte has a certain level of kind of like a no nonsense. I'm going to talk my ass. I'm a little bit more hard nosed.
Now he's going to say whatever he wants. What he couldn't say on NBC Sports Bay Area, now he's like, I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want now.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons they got rid of him off of NBC Sports Area. They didn't like the way he approached things. He wasn't too friendly.
To add context to this, Ji'Ayir Brown's going into year 4. Donte Whitner didn't make his first Pro Bowl until year 7. So,
great situation though. Exactly.
It's right. It's not like there isn't room to grow.
Right. No, I agree. But I think Donte had a way better attitude. At least we would think he did. I mean, he just comes off like a guy that.
We don't know that. I mean, I don't know Donte Whitner personally, and I would never attack Donte personally. I love Donte Whitner as a player. Yeah, I have sources.
Trust me.
I just think like Ji'Ayir should be more thick-skinned. Probably should have ignored what Donte was saying. And the minute Ji'Ayir called Donte shouldn't have run to his podcast and blasted him on social media and made multiple shows and posts about him, because it does bring negative light to a player that already has enough on him simply based off his poor play, and knowing that the odds are Ji'Ayir is not going to be here next year if he plays this bad again. He'll go elsewhere and be the third bust of that trio of third-round draft picks in 2021 or 23 with Jake Moody and Cam Latu. So it's just like, I just don't. It's a really awkward situation, and I think both sides are wrong. Ji'Ayir's a little delusional, and Donte should be maybe a little more forgiving in some cases.
I grew up on a time in the era that I grew up in where everybody talks shit about everybody.
Yeah.
Whether behind your back or to your face. You could ask my brother, you can ask anybody. You just kind of sucked it up, dude, because if you didn't and you cried about it, you were going to be labeled a bitch. And so I'm just from the generation of, do I agree that he took a personal conversation? Do I think he should have done that? No. But at the same time, dude, if somebody comes at you and criticizes you and you respond by saying, don't say mean things about me, don't say words, it's freaking weak.
Well, on
Yeah.
top of that, he's like, I don't do podcasts. He was just on the podcast with what's his name, Ari Marov.
Ari
or whatever.
Marov. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just on with that
Yeah,
guy sitting by the
because he-
pool, like,
because he's saying nice things about him.
I know.
I just-
And so again, he did want to go on there. Why? Because then he'd have to answer for his play the past 2 seasons.
He doesn't want to.
Yeah,
do
but
that.
but
He doesn't
but
want to do that.
Do either one of you want to go on a hostile podcast and have to defend yourself 24/7 from a guy coming at you? I wouldn't.
If I'm
I
going to
feel
call
like
the guy to tell him to stop talking shit about me, I would expect him to say, "Why don't you come on my podcast then?" And then, of course, I
If
would
I
need to say yes
disagree
or no.
with
Like
him?
no, because
If I
why would I
disagree-
give you content on my name?
Well, exactly. But you already did when you made the phone call. At that point,
Yeah.
it's already over. You've already
Shouldn't have
you've
reached
already
out
made
to
the
him.
call. When you reach out and try to make a statement to a content creator that makes controversial content, that's the worst thing you can do.
'Cause you
Because
know
here's
they're
the
gonna-
thing.
Yep.
Every time you have a content creator that can be a harsh critic on certain aspects or certain players, they want nothing more than for that player or that coach or whoever to reach out to them and try and get a hold of the situation, because then it draws attention to their platform. I see it all the time. And
Yeah,
he
but
did that.
you would think Donte, being a former NFL athlete, would have maybe more in common and an understanding of where Ji'Ayir's coming from. Because Donte wasn't a Pro Bowl player his first 4 years in the NFL. Neither has Ji'Ayir by a wide margin.
Yeah.
And while Ji'Ayir has to get better, Donte doesn't seem to be looking at Ji'Ayir from the lens of a former or current NFL player, a compatriot. He's looking at him as, you're a dog shit safety, and I'm trying to fix your career. And Jair's like, I don't even know you, bro. I'm not asking for your help. You're just coming at me nonstop. I don't even know who you are. Like,
yeah, but the way I look at it is, if you're I don't know, like if you're on a podcast and you are making content and you're speaking out loud and your content is, the way, like Jerry said, controversial, and you happen to get one of your boys helps to catch wind of somebody saying bad things about you on a podcast that is very like upfront and just says whatever, and you're like, man, I gotta check this guy. He can't be saying mean things about me on his mean podcast where he always says mean things about people. And you go tell him, don't say mean things. Guess what he's gonna do? He's gonna say mean things.
yeah,
Well,
but I don't
should've
think,
just
I don't
never
think
called him.
Donte doesn't realize he's saying mean things. Donte
No,
views it
he's
as,
being-
Well, he doesn't care.
I'm just being right, but also I think Donte views it as, I'm just keeping it straight.
I think Donte would say the same thing about him in a closed room.
I agree, but the point is that Ji'Ayir maybe isn't that type of guy. Ji'Ayir feels rather mild-mannered. Maybe he's overconfident. Ji'Ayir's not someone to pull up on you and start causing a problem. Ji'Ayir seems like somebody who's like, hey, let's handle it behind the scenes. It doesn't need to be out there in public.
True.
Like I'm that way too. Like, a lot of people have no problems in public fighting with their families, fighting with their wives or husbands. If me and my wife are going to have a problem, we're going to go into a private room, talk about it, and we're going to walk out and be okay. Like,
True. I agree with that.
We're not going to fight out of the house. If we are outside, we're going to go to the car and have a conversation, then come back in and join the party again. Like, that's how I do things.
Right.
And I think Ji'Ayir Brown's the same way. He didn't want to go on social media and call out Donte Whitner, because why would you do that? He wants to have a conversation behind closed doors, man to man. Hey, let's just chat things out, man. Like, let's talk things out. Donte came from what it seems like to be from the angle of, like, it doesn't matter what you say. This is content no matter what. And that, to me, kind of devalues the human contact you're making of a young man trying to make his way in the NFL while still trying to keep it real on your podcast. You can criticize Ji'Ayir all you want. You can tell Ji'Ayir, hey, man, look, like, I want the best for you. That's why I'm criticizing you, and I'd love to be in that room with you and chat you up and talk to you. And maybe Donte did, and Ji'Ayir said, F, no, I don't want that. But we'll never know, because Jair's not going to talk about it again. Because Jair's like, I tried that. It didn't work. I'm just going to go do me, and you can go do you.
Yeah.
And it's like, that. It's like Donte really messed this up, in my opinion.
I mean, at the end of the day, they're both at
And
fault.
keeping it real goes wrong. Dave Chappelle.
It's like when he knocks over the glass of water. He's like, oops, gotcha. Love it.